Let's get started. Warm welcome to one of those evergreen sessions, RDSH versus VDI. So, who of you has heard one of these sessions before? Well, yeah,
quite a few.
I would expect like everybody has heard something like that before. But we want to give it a different spin. So, my name is Benny Church, and well, I'm a Microsoft Regional Director, an MVP, a CDP, and a V-Expert. So, wow, for the first time ever, I collected all these titles. It's only going to take a year or two, and then they will go away again. So that is the thing. And hey, as a partner today, I have Sinisha with me. He is a first-time E2E speaker.
Yes, my name is Sinisha. I'm CTO of a company called Risk Consulting. We are located in Cologne, in Germany, and yes, I hope you will have fun with us for 40 minutes.
I will have fun.
Just watch out for videos of the dance.
I heard of that story. So, let's get it started. First of all, I want to take you a little bit back in time. So, let's make a journey to the past. To be precise, 12 years in the past. That was the first terminal server farm I was responsible for. As you can see me in the back doing some cabling there. These were Windows 2000 servers running MetaFrame XPE, 200 users, fully dedicated backend infrastructure, connected to a 100 megabit switch with Exchange, Active Directory, file services, a wonderful tape library. Yes, that was that time, and whoa, now I'm loud. Yeah.
Keep on going.
Later on, we started migrating all that stuff to Windows 2003 with Flex profiles in that time. We met in that time also the first time. And we started to install Absence, Application Management, and Performance Manager on the boxes. And I also had first contact with the terminal server scene. I had Rick Dellinger's tuning guide in my hands, and my boss said, so tweak that stuff. In the end, there were 250 users running on that infrastructure, and I was very proud of that. So I thought we were innovative, and before I did the cabling, I think we invented the first real ever hybrid cloud prototype, because we moved these racks 10 floors downstairs into the second underground, where we put our new data center location. You don't see all of the people. I think we were 15 or 20 people that were moving these racks, and there were a few of them.
Did you take the servers out before you?
No, that they were up and running all the time. Thank you for asking, Alex. You don't see all the cables behind all that.
That was really hard stuff. So today it seems simpler than 12 years back. So yes, and if you look at today, we are in the year 2015, and it's, as you may all know, the year of the VDI, like the year before, and that year before, and the year before the year.
According to Brian Madden, every year is the year of VDI.
Yeah. And I want to take that year in the middle. All of you that know Citrix and especially XenApp may have heard when Citrix announced Xen Desktop 7 that XenApp should have been retired. So many people were yelling, "Oh my God, Citrix XenApp is dead. What should I do?" And they were crying, and all the people were saying, "So how can it be that Xen Desktop is only a feature? XenApp is only a feature of Xen Desktop?" If you look at today, I think it's the other way around. Let me explain why. We have VMware starting to support RDSH workloads with hosted apps. We have companies like Unidesk that started their business with VDI only products, and now have announced last month at Synergy, I think, support for RDSH workloads and Senate. And I think many people are realizing that we are moving back to that RDSH stuff, and that's why I changed my relationship status in Facebook to in love with RDSH. But when
How did you do that, actually?
I hacked that. But if I look back to that first time when I started administrating the terminal server farm, in that time it was complicated for me, but when I think now back, it's easy. And if you look at today, how many different technologies are rising up and with which problems we have to deal, then I think it's changed back to very complicated.
Yeah, that's the stuff that I want to cover a little bit. So after a little storytelling by Sinisha, now we want to take a look at the remoting story and why it's still relevant to have this conversation about RDSH versus VDI. If you look at the title of the agenda, it says RDS versus VDI, which is not correct. And I'll show you why. Because Microsoft calls the entire thing RDS. And the virtual desktops, those are the VDI things. And the terminal servers, the stuff we formerly called terminal servers, are RDSH. So if somebody says RDS, then it's both. And you cannot differentiate between the two anymore. And this is exactly what Microsoft had in mind, because they said there's no difference between the two. But in reality, there is. And this is why we have to do this session again. Like, to tell you what is the state of the nation. That was the term that was used earlier this morning, the state of the nation about VDI and RDSH. So we have a couple of challenges when we look at such environments. And I don't want to go through all those challenges. Just for you, like a list, these are the things that we are dealing with when we are dealing with any of those, VDI or RDSH. So we need to take care of how to integrate client components, for example. Load balancing. Anybody here who ever did a Microsoft only project, RDSH project? Did you like the load balancing?
No.
Thank you. We're constantly telling Microsoft, people hate you for that. They don't care.
Do you know the guy who invented that?
Well, they make it a secret. And they know why. And these are the things that we have to deal with. Okay, there are third-party load balancers, so we have to integrate third-party load balancers. Now, if you're talking about template creation, this is a dark art. So people have different ways of creating templates, either on the VDI side or on the terminal server side, and so on and so forth. And there are more. So there's a second page of all those challenges. The thing is that sometimes some of these challenges are more on the VDI side, and sometimes these challenges are more on the RDSH side. And that makes the difference between the two technologies, and sometimes you prefer one over the other. So as I said, I don't want to go into these particulars, but the thing is that now Ruben Strout and Jeroen van der Kamp, when they did the new Project VRC survey, they also asked today's customers. So they did the survey 2015. So and you find out that still there are some of these challenges existing when you ask the customers and the partners. And what I found very interesting, and I know that it was confirmed by other surveys as well, user experience and performance is still topic number one. Which means if your users believe that performance sucks, they hate the remoting technology. Simple as that. We're always competing with local experience. Now, all of you, more or less, are remoting experts. Who of you works in a remoting environment every single day? This is a minority. Why are we not eating our own dog food? And in many IT organizations, I ask this particular question. Why are we asking our users to use a technology that we don't want to use? Oh, that's for other people. snappy. That's not good. So user experience and performance, it's also our #1 concern. If stuff doesn't work snappy, we don't like it. And the complexity, Tanisha already referred to that. The complexity of the technology stack is something that worries people. Rich media, how to integrate all these rich media is a big problem. Management, user experience, as I said, lifecycle management. Things go faster every day, a lot faster. If you look at what Microsoft does with their product cycles, there is no version of a future Windows anymore, so they will update it constantly. What impact does that have on your on-prem environment? Are you going to update things every 6 hours? In Azure, they do. Just as an idea, they do. Every single day, they deliver new functionality on Azure. So how can you compete with that? Or do you want to compete with that? So these are the interesting things. How is lifecycle management going to look like in a couple of years? And licensing. We're going to talk about licensing in a bit. So why do people choose VDI? And that's a funny situation for me. In the past, I was the one representing RDSH. Now I decided I want to represent VDI and leave the cool stuff to Sinisha. And why would people select VDI? So yes, we have a dedicated machine for each user, isolated environment. We have admin rights if we want to assign admin rights to users. We can install and uninstall apps. In an enterprise environment, do we want that? That's a good question. So some people, some environments, this is something that people want to have, but it's not the rule, it's the exception typically. Manageability, most people say that it's easier to manage VDI than it is to manage RDSH. I call it bullshit, but that's my personal opinion.
What's an argument?
Huh?
What's an argument?
Access to multiple desktops, a lot in high security scenarios, that's something that you want to have. GPU acceleration, we're going to talk about that later. And what annoys me most?
Yeah.
This one here, is it cheaper? No, it's not. Everybody says it's cheaper, but until now it is not cheaper. If you try to do VDI for cost reasons, you're going to fail. Typically, it's more expensive. You need to have other reasons for doing that, but not making it cheaper. And the other thing is, there are still so many people out there who have no idea what RDSH really is. And it's funny, if you go to a Microsoft event, and I was a speaker at multiple Microsoft events like TechEd and Ignite, and you're sitting in a speaker room, and suddenly one of those Microsoft folks comes to you and says, hey, I heard you're doing a session on remoting. Can you explain me what a terminal server is? And I'm like, you work for Microsoft, don't you? Yeah, I work for Microsoft. You have no idea what RDSH is in terms of? No, nobody told us. And I'm like, wow, even Microsoft doesn't know? So how do we expect the market to know? And this is one of the biggest challenges that we have. So, Sasha.
One argument I lost, I don't know, you were there when we had this discussion with Sean Best, and Sean Best said, I don't know if it's here, but...
No, he's not here. No. No. Those striped shirts, he's not here.
Can you click one back?
He said a lot of those arguments, but actually the killer argument was that every Windows application runs on desktop. That was the killer.
Yeah. We're going to come back to that.
Yeah.
Just wait.
Good point. Yes.
Good point.
So let's talk about RDSH. Why do we use RDSH? So
More consulting hours.
Yes. More consulting hours. Among us, good point.
Yeah.
Never tell the customer.
we should add it here in the presentation for the next time. So why do we use it?
Thank you, Jim.
I think first of all, it's a good starting point for to standardize the environment. So if we have many users using the same set of applications with the same settings, so then we should use it. I think that it makes sense. If we run all of these things in the data centers, then we have to to take care of a minor amount of servers, so our infrastructure gets smaller. That we are hosting data center, hosted apps and desktops in a data center, I think that is, I don't know who would do it the other way. It wouldn't make sense. But if you have, for example, many remote offices, then this is also a good starting point because IPA protocol, we know, it works very well over WAN connections. And I'm not sure if high availability of the services is really a good starting point, because when you start creating your environment, you do failover services, load balancing, and all that stuff. Then you can assign it to every service you're hosting. But the main reason, and that is always the point that we see in discussions on blogs and Twitter, is it really cheaper and less complex?
Going back to this conversation that also Sean started with the higher user density. So you were not digging into that, and I know why, because this is exactly what we will also discuss. The question is, higher user density. Is it really higher user density that we get on terminal service?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. We are quite unsure.
What percentage?
Well, first of all, we have to define which operating system you're using. 32-bit versus 64-bit, otherwise discussion is...
Yeah, I know, the 32-bit, 64-bit discussion and the sheer size, the footprint of the individual applications. If you have 20 applications running in such an environment at the same time on a user desktop, the footprint of the OS becomes irrelevant, because we're talking about 5% footprint of the OS. If it's only one application, yeah, then it may make a difference. So when we're talking about kiosk setups, only one app plus the OS, yes, at that moment RDSH is a lot more efficient. If we're talking about high-end desktops with a lot of line of business applications, no, it's not the case anymore. Any thoughts on that, Sean? Okay. Yeah, you were eating, so you agree. Thank you.
One thing we talked about yesterday or today, I've actually a problem with more cheaper because it's a licensing thing.
Oh yeah.
And we talked about.
You know, we had it on both slides.
Yeah.
People try to convince us that one is cheaper than the other, and the others try to convince us from the same story. So we have to look at the licensing. I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you.
How about cloud delivery? It's already allowed to deliver straight to the cloud?
Let's wait until the end. We have future stuff. Very good point. Keep that in mind, please. Okay.
Good.
So, you yourself just told it out. How it was about technology. Yeah.
For us, it's known technology, and that's exactly the most important point. Yes, we know how to deal with the technology, but now in the cloud era, so many new people get introduced to that kind of technology. For them, it's brand new. Absolutely, I agree.
So if you go, for example, to a customer site and they start a VDI project, we see problems that we already have known for 20 years since we have done terminal services, because we know how to tweak these operating systems. But people who start now with a VDI project, they have no clue what they are doing. So.
Oh, it's like in a time machine. It's like, oh, I've seen this arrow 10 years ago, and here's back. Okay.
So let's have a look how Microsoft does remote desktop services. And it's pretty simple. We have a client, remote desktop gateway to enter our network. Then ID web access with a connection broker, and in the end, we decide either to go to a VDI desktop or an RDSH desktop or application.
Now compare that to the others. Let's take a look at that.
Let's take a look.
Whoa, huge difference, isn't it?
Yeah. Basically, it's the same, only other names. And if you look at VMware,
oh,
wow, surprise.
If you look at their graphics, their artwork that they do around their products, it looks very different. their marketing departments do a great job of pretending that they're doing something completely different. As a matter of fact, it's not. It all comes back to either running VMs, client VMs, or RDSH.
Yeah.
So this is what it is, not more, not less.
So okay, we all know this is a very simple view. We have different feature sets, but
we're not talking about management consoles or management infrastructure. To be very clear, it's only the base technology. It's the engine. What is the engine? That's the underlying thing. And if you look back this morning, Control Up. Why is there a need for a product like Control Up? Yeah, because the management user interface and the monitoring sucks. So you need an add-on tool. Simple as that. Now, how do they really compare? So now there's the big fight between the two. And so we have a couple of real numbers. So you want to cover those?
yeah, if you look at the last project VRC questionnaire, we see there that if we compare RDSH and VDI and different points, that many are because of the same reasons why you use VDR or RDSH. And some of them are clear. I think if you support developers, you wouldn't take an RDSH desktop or application because you don't want to screw other users in the box. Maybe that's the perfect reason to use a VDI. And
so this is this number here. That's clearly on the VDI side. The cost reduction, these people really believe that you can reduce more cost with RDSH.
Yeah.
So that's not our opinion, that is the survey that the Project VRC folks did.
yes, and if we look at the marketing stuff that is around today, it's very unclear why RDSH is used for support specific applications, because I would think personally that it's for all these standard line of business stuff all the users are using, but not for specific applications. So that would, for me, be a reason to use a VDI desktop. Yeah.
Let's move on.
So let's go to the next. Like we said before, RDSH is too complicated. But only if you haven't had the chance to work with it for years, so customers are struggling with it. But the question is, yes, why is it this way? So why do people think that RDSH is complicated?
If you look at the comparison between those two again, you use something that seems to be more complicated to set up, and then you get something that brings you into trouble at some places. And the question was, why do people think it's too complicated? I mean, if you look back a couple of years, it was really complicated to set up Senap. Now, Citrix, they did a great job of streamlining the installation experience. So it's very simple to go through the next procedure, and there's a good chance that in the end the environment is up and running. It's not properly configured, to be very clear. There's still a lot of work to be done. But in the past, even installation was so painful because you went through the installation at a certain stage and said, hey, you need that particular component. Oh, unfortunately, that's not included in the package. So you have to cancel the entire installation, go back and download the stuff and start from scratch. So you're like, oh, and if that happened like 5 or 6 times during the installation sequence, you got really upset about that. Alex?
Sometimes it's recommended to read the shrink wrap manual.
Thank you. Yeah, RTFM, I hear you. We're experts. And if you look at the Microsoft stuff, they also try to improve the quality of the installation. But seriously, if you want to build a real environment, like a load-balanced environment, there is no wizard that helps you to do that. So it's painful. And this is one of the reasons why people believe that RDSH is so complicated. And then in the end, the other thing is you have applications, because you were referring to the applications. Why do we use VDI? Because of the applications. Yes, there's a clear reason to that. because the user mode isolation is weak on the terminal server, and the kernel mode isolation does not exist at all. So no individual drivers, no individual services or something. This does not exist, while on the VDI side, it does. And that is the number one differentiator. Yes, you can use any application isolation or virtualization technology to compensate for some of those weaknesses, but you will not be able to create, to overcome the problems with kernel mode isolation. So there is no way you can do that with RDSH. Simple as that. So if you have applications that require user-specific services or drivers, you will not be able to use RDSH. Simple as that. Now,
So,
what do we really need?
yeah, we are talking the whole time about should we use RDSH or VDI, and what is the real problem with that? So, basically, it's all about the apps. So the question is, do our users need a full desktop?
And here I want you to stop. What is your thought? Do users really want to have a remote desktop? Yes.
Depends
Well,
on
all
the
the icons.
icons.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
really depends.
Or do they want to have
Or do they want to have apps?
that?
Apple show us that they won't have apps.
Okay? But this is the question. It's not that we have the answer to that. It's really a question we're asking you. Do you really believe that we have to deliver desktops, or do we have to deliver applications? Yes, we have to make sure that we know where the icons are. Oh, so many people who want to contribute. Let's start over there. Jim.
So, effectively, the desktop is for same place for, and that's basically the buttons on their desktop. Yeah, I've got one of my desktop right now. The Wi-Fi connection and the integration between that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So they want to do both of those things. They want it's a integration. I think the common comparison you've got, say, you get the same apps whether you've got application delivery or you've got a desktop. You're actually missing features by eliminating the desktop from the environment.
Yep. So you're missing features if you don't have the desktop. So that's what you basically say. What about small footprint devices? Do you want to have a full desktop on a small device?
That's not the question.
Sorry, I was asking the wrong questions. Okay. Yeah, let's move on. Sorry. Let's move on. I agree with you. The question is there any device without a desktop? Ah, okay. Device. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. But the funny thing is, this option is also available through VDI. Does anybody do that? Seamless applications from a VDI infrastructure? Technically, it's possible.
Yeah, successful applications.
Yeah.
They're not running on RDSH, and you need to have a special one, and don't want to integrate it into the normal desktop because it's so special. Then
Yeah, but you see, here the things get really blurred. More comments? Okay. Andreas?
I think every user needs to have, if there is an appropriate resolution and an appropriate screen, one desktop. It depends
Yes.
on the device. For a notebook, for example, there is one desktop, so not looking at the connection question.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
For a set client, maybe it may be better to have the desktop local and using remote apps.
Okay.
And if you're in a thin line scenario, the
It's all integrated in one desktop. Yeah.
desktop experience
Yeah.
should be conserved. Maybe with a second hub to apps.
I agree with you. Having multiple desktops for the user, it confuses the user.
Yeah.
However, having one desktop like you suggest and then have a published application, but then when you click at Save As, and the C drive is not at the same place where the local application C drive is, guess what happens? It confuses the crap out of users. So they don't understand that. We were talking to Microsoft again and again, telling them, you need to hide that. That prevents you from being successful with seamless apps. Absolutely. Here's one more question.
I don't think about the association or connection between them, because if you don't run only apps, where is the link between
Yep.
if you open PDF or you open...
Yeah, like silos. If you have silos and then,
You
yeah.
have the connection.
Okay. So that's a good remark. So if you start scattering the applications across multiple silos or VDI and RDSH, there's no connection like COM or DCOM or whatever is in the background. So very, very good arguments for that. But it comes back to that. You cannot answer that question right away, except for...
So let's go further. I was talking to Sean some minutes ago, and I think you all know where that comes from. That is from Project ANSO. And the question we had was, do we really need to have 2,000 desktops in 20 minutes? Is this something we need?
I know that Sean's session is going to be right after our session, and we will hear the answer from him. That's great.
Yes, and we discussed that topic, and we tried to find a solution for that. And we changed the wording a little bit and changed it to VMs or RDSH. So
Instances, RDSH instances. So this is basically what you want to have. It's not about the desktop. Sometimes you want to have the published apps. And the published apps are going to need a runtime environment. And we need to make sure that the runtime environment is spinning up fast enough. So that is what we need. So yeah, there is a need for projects like Project ANSO because we want to have these resources to be delivered really, really fast. Again, big discussions with Microsoft about Azure Remote App because their load balancer that they implemented there, it just counts users. And as soon as a certain limit of users is hit, they spin up a new VM. Wonderful. Now, if you have logon storms in the morning, we measure wait times of up to 10 to 15 minutes until all the VMs started spinning up. Now, users sitting in front of a screen and waiting for their applications to start, they don't have the patience to wait for 10 or 15 minutes. In that moment, it's not the user profile anymore. It's the wait time to spin up VMs. Simple as that. And so there is a need for that project, for that kind of project.
yes,
Absolutely.
and it's a great technology, I think. But the question is, what about the backend infrastructure? So we add 2,000 desktops. We need to think about all the stuff around RDSH and VDI, and there are lots of topics we could discuss now for some time.
I only want to use one of them, layering. Who of you has ever tried out stuff like FS Logics or App Volumes, Unidisk? How many of you? So what do you think? Is that going to be the future? Is that going to help us?
Yes, but you're adding layers, right? Ironically, when you're adding additional layers that then you management and how do they then fit together and how do they work?
Okay. Yeah, but as you can see, there are all these topics that we would be able to cover, but they are not specific to the question, is it VDI or is it RDSH? And this is why we intentionally said, no, we don't want to cover them, because we will find arguments for RDSH for each of those, and we will find arguments for VDI for each of those. Like I said with enterprise IT, do we really need user-installed applications? Yes or no? If we really need them in an enterprise IT environment, hey, then VDI is the way to go, and make users admins. I personally do not believe in this story, but this is why we don't want to cover that completely. But what should we do?
Yeah, what should we do? If we can learn something from projects like Project ANSO or from the cloud, it is basically that we shouldn't do any manual processes. One of the numbers from Project VRC was that even today, 38% of the people are doing manual updates in their master gold images. think it is. How many of you do manual updates to their gold images?
You shouldn't.
Yeah, but if you see some crappy software,
Yeah, but still, you should try to avoid it as much as you can.
But then we have technologies like Unidesk app volumes, layering, so you can do manual installations if you like, but you can automate the rest, for example. But the thing with layering today is, and that's a point that maybe prevents it from going to enterprise IT today, is that you cannot automate it. How do you create a new layer automatically, install the software in it, and assign the layer to a machine or a user? That's a big problem. Yeah. If you have an API.
Yeah. Talk to Carl.
Whoa.
No,
One too early. One too early.
Yeah, simplify the technology. That is something that we always find. Sometimes people overcomplicate their environments right from the beginning. That's a typical German thing to do, as I know from experience. Like building the entire thing right from the beginning. V1 must be complete, and sometimes it's better to do it the Dutch way. And building stuff small and beautiful first, and then growing step by step. This is what I learned when I did some Dutch projects. So that was interesting. Network is always something that is really interesting. People underestimate the effects that network latency has on a remoting infrastructure. I'm not talking about from the host to the client. I'm also talking about the entire backend infrastructure. Latency. They can be very painful.
Yes. Not to forget, if you start a project when you want to integrate RDSH or VDI, check first your requirements, do an assessment of the applications, check the needs, and then decide where to go. Because when you look at marketing, everything seems to go in the direction to use VDI, but that doesn't always make sense.
So now comes your beautiful picture.
That
Lego
yes,
fire.
Yes, I'm a friend of automation and small building blocks to create bigger infrastructures. So if you start with such projects, and I know there's always a lot of discussion. If you use VDI, then you have applications that you need to provide for a client operating system, and then on the other hand, you have RDSH, where you need to package all the applications for a server operating system. That is somehow complicated, but you can handle that if you do it right.
So that brings us to the final thing, and now we're going to cover what Alex said. What about licensing? And now I want to start this conversation about licensing by looking at what Microsoft does with Server 2016. And at the beginning, everything looks good because finally they're supporting OpenGL for our remoting infrastructure, which is good news. Up to 4.4, OpenCL, DirectX 12, all of that. And then there was something that I thought was a great announcement. They said they're going to support server VMs on Hyper-V. So wow, now including the GPU support, GPU accelerated support. But I added something that Microsoft did not add in their marketing slide. It's a single user RDSH image. Wow, now things become really complicated. So at the beginning we were talking about VDI, and VDI can be hardware accelerated, GPU accelerated. Fine, we know about that. Now we always wanted to have the RDSH platform also following that because, like Alex said, there's a problem, and Helmut said, there's a problem with licensing. You cannot use VDI in the cloud for anonymous users. There is no SPLA model for those users. So what does Microsoft recommend? What they say now, and now they even have it in the product itself, what they recommend is install Data Center Edition of server. And because Data Center Edition gives you an unlimited number of VMs that you can start without paying any extra license fees regarding the OS. So you run as many server VMs as possible, and you allow only one interactive user per server VM. Well, this seems to be like VDI with server. Why are they doing that? First, the licensing model. Hey, wonderful, no change of the licensing model. It works because, hey, it's an RDSH server, a single user RDSH server, so there's a SPLA model for that. Wow, it works. And the other thing is they can harden the server. So it's not a standard Windows 10 machine anymore, it's a hardened OS instance. And now they bring this RDSH desktop experience pack that makes the server VM look like Windows 10. We don't know how far they go with the lying layer of filter drivers. Probably it will even tell you that it's Windows 10.
Yeah. They call this personal session test.
Yeah.
That's the name.
So they're using a server, and the server pretends, no, I'm Windows 10, I'm a client. But in reality, it's not. Now, is that VDI or is that RDSH? We can't tell anymore. We only have to know that this is the way that Microsoft will push these things out. Because they also introduced universal applications. Universal apps, are they multi-user capable? Not that I know. So how could you host those universal apps then in a data center? Hey, look at that, in a GPU accelerated single user RDSH instance. That would most probably work. So it's interesting times. So it gets more confusing. It's just for you to be aware of that. Don't let customers get you into a conversation where you're trying to fight each other regarding VDI or RDSH. We love RDSH, but it's not the same RDSH that we used to know.
Well, the current company, Citrix introduced that to us.
Oh, yeah.
VDIs was so.
Yeah, but Citrix,
Yeah,
most Citrix and VMware, they're stuck. They cannot change the Microsoft licensing model. So they need just to do what Microsoft forces them to do. Now you can't do that if you're in an enterprise environment. You cannot change these rules. Okay. We keep telling them, but hey, I'm only the messenger now. I'm telling you what they are up to. And we tell them this is horse shit, but they don't really care. Okay, this is what we wanted to share with you. I hope you learned something too. Thank you very much.